Alrighty, welcome to the 108th edition of Before the Battle here live on YouTube. I am Nick Baldwin of BloodyElbow.com. Joining me, as always, is Jed Meshew of MMAfighting.com. Lucky you guys, Wes Riddle will make it. Three of us tonight. He will be joining us very soon. We don't know exactly when, but hopefully within 15 minutes or so. So all he'll miss is our intro and probably the first couple fights. So he'll be here. He's just not quite here yet. I think his college dorm. Oh, would you look at that? As I say, we don't know exactly when Wes Riddle will arrive. He has arrived. So, Wes, it has been a long time. We didn't have UFC for 3 weeks. You missed the card before the 3-week break. You missed the card last week. It's been a while. How are you doing?
I'm feeling good. I didn't like the fire drill that just happened.
No, that sucks.
Yeah.
11 o'clock at night.
Luckily, I found out earlier in the day instead of finding out while doing it because I felt like I would have been a lot more upset because I know that's happened once before. But besides that, in a sense, I've graduated college. I just finished up in the first week of May. I'm completing a May term class. That's why I'm still here at my school. I've got a May term class that I never had a chance to do, so I'm finishing that now. Heading to the beach next week. So unfortunately, I won't be on the show unless we do it on Friday, which I think we'll talk about later. But I'm looking forward to these next 3 weeks, and then I'll be able to go back home and start looking for jobs in the real world.
There you go. Doesn't it suck a little bit to graduate and then still have to go back? I know it's only for a month or whatever it is, but
no, it doesn't. It's amazing. Stay in school forever, kids.
Yeah,
the world sucks. Stay in school forever.
I'm definitely glad to be here. I'm still able to see some people that I know, and the benefit to this class is that, like I said, we're going to the beach for like 4 days. Plus, I'm going to go home tomorrow, so I'll be able to have kind of a little break in a sense. I mean, we're definitely going to be doing some work while we're there, but it should be a fun time. I'm going to be surfing for the first time, so I'm looking forward to that. And the weather should be decent. I know it's calling for rain. It's been raining. My hair's a little wet, as you can see.
It's about to kill you because on the MMA Circus a couple nights ago, all I did was talk about the weather, and he didn't like that too much.
That's not what people come here for. They don't come here for our
what do they come here first for? Tell us.
For high level fight pick analysis.
Yes, that is what we're experts at. Jed, how are you? I didn't ask. I assume pretty good.
I am. It was a really long day. I'm super tired. And
don't you say that every week?
It's true every week. I work 80 hours a week. It's a lot. So I'm always tired. But today we did finally get to announce, or I guess we didn't, but the news officially broke. Ariel Helwani is leaving MMAfighting.com, so I don't have to keep holding that secret inside my chest anymore. So that's some pressure off. That feels good. Congrats, Ariel. I know you aren't watching this and will never watch this, but fare thee well. You're going to kill it at ESPN.
Yeah, we cover that Luke Thomas doesn't listen to the MMA Circus, and Ariel Helwani certainly doesn't listen to Before the Battle, but nonetheless, they are missing out. Let's move on with the show. Let's go to our results from last week. We had UFC 224 go down in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, with the UFC Women's Bantamweight Championship on the line. The Lioness, the champion, the title holder, Amanda Nunes, defended the title for the third time successfully with a fifth-round TKO over Raquel Rocky Pennington. Of course, the fight probably went on a little bit longer than it needed to, but nonetheless, that is the official result, official outcome of that 5-round bantamweight main event. We also had Jacare Gastelum defeat Jacare. Almost had it the other way around because it was a split decision. Some other good fights. Last card was really fun. Let's go to you, Jed, for our results, for our picks, for our bonuses, our underdog pick of the week, which I'm not sure if you have, and then, of course, DraftKings as well.
Nick, you are our picks champion with a 10-3 record. Wes, both you and I came in at 9-4, just slightly underneath Nikolai there. As far as our DraftKings squads went, again, we have a double champ. Nick is our DraftKings winner, DK winner with 382 points. Big performances from Zaleski dos Santos, John Lineker, and Alexei Olenek for you. And then as far as our bonuses go, your boy bringing it home. I had Alexei Olenek as a performance of the night bonus. nailed that, and I had him as my underdog pick. I was the only one to cash on the underdog picks for this past week. So I am the bonus beast this past week. We are all set, squared away, ready to move forward.
I kind of like, I'm not going to lie, that West didn't win any. Nothing against US personally, but the fact you didn't show up, I feel like it's kind of like when fighters miss weight. Now, this is something we've talked about before. They shouldn't be ranked. And it's funny that I bring this up now because Mackenzie Dern is now part of the strawweight top 15, despite missing weight by God knows how many pounds last week.
7. She missed by 7 pounds. I know how many because I can add.
You know how many, God knows how many, and probably a lot of other people know as well. Yeah, so Wes, you can submit your picks when you're not here, but you're just not eligible to take home the W. So better luck this week. With that, let's move on to UFC Fight Night 129, which goes down from Santiago, Chile. I believe that's right. We're calling it UFC Chile, but I guess we have to get the city right. So Santiago, Chile. We have a main event at the welterweight division. Damian Maia taking on Kamaru Usman. Initially was supposed to be Santiago Ponzinibbio against Kamaru Usman. He pulled out with an injury. The veteran, the former welterweight title challenger, Damian Maia, steps up on short notice. Rest of the card, not all that fantastic, but hey, we're hardcore fans. 2 of us, at the very least, are hardcore fans, and one is just, a guy that is trying to cover the sport and is getting much more frustrated as time goes on. But hey, nonetheless, let's start out with the UFC Fight Pass early prelims, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m. Pacific. We go to the lightweight division to kick things off. Claudio Puelles taking on Felipe Silva. Jed, what do you got for us on this one?
Felipe Silva's bigger. He's going to win. I want everyone to know this week, my analysis is going to be as short as the UFC should have made this card, because I don't care about these fights. You don't care about these fights. This is likely going to be one of the worst shows in Before the Battle history as far as a viewership number, because no one gives a flying fuck about this fight card. So, Felipe Silva is way bigger. He's going to win.
Yeah, I don't have too much else to add on that one. The only thing I can say is that I remember Claudio Puelles' last fight when he fought Martin Bravo. Bravo was able to initiate a lot of strikes after kind of doing like a Diaz kind of taunt and trying to make him scrap. And I think Felipe Silva is a little bit better at hitting, and especially with his pressure. And I think that since Puelles got finished by Bravo in kind of that sense, I feel like we're going to see something similar here. I've got Felipe Silva getting a second-round TKO over Claudio Puelles. But I think this fight could be pretty fun. I think there could be something interesting for 2 fighters that aren't really highly ranked or don't have anything notable about them. But Silva's my pick.
I'm trying to, as Felipe Silva's record loads, his last fight, so he was knocked out by Mairbek Taisimov back in September. So a bit of a layoff, but what I was remembering was his knockout over Shane Campbell. That was August of 2016, a year and a bit before his last fight. So he hasn't been the most active. He was signed to the UFC nearly 2 years ago, and he's only had 2 fights. Both ended in the first round, one his way, one not. He's quite the banger. I mean, I think Felipe Silva's a decent fighter. Some people might look at or see that he's 1-1 and say, okay, the guy, give him more time. And although it's true, losing to Mairbek Taisimov isn't, the worst loss in the world. Very far from it. On the other hand, Claudio Puelles appears to be mostly a submission fighter with some improving striking. Half of his wins, so that 4 of 8 pro victories have come by way of submission. It's a bit of a tough fight to call, but I think Silva, with the reach advantage, the height advantage, he's probably a little stronger, and I think he hits harder, and I think that will get the job done. So give me Felipe Silva via knockout in, let's go round 1. Moving
Nick
on.
just took 200 words to say what I said in 5.
I wasn't listening to you, so I wouldn't know that. Moving down to the bantamweight division, we got Henry Briones taking on Frankie Saenz. Jed, we'll go to you. Who do you like in this fight, the American or the Mexican?
Frankie Saenz is really old, so I'm really tempted to pick against him. But Henry Briones hasn't won a fight in like 10 years or something absurd, because he's gotten He's got matched up pretty tough. I think he should be an okay fighter, really, but I just can't pick somebody who hasn't won in so long. Frankie Saenz also has a clear wrestling advantage, so if things get a little gray, he can probably use that to control. Give me Frankie Saenz.
I'm taking Frankie Saenz as well in this one. He's shown signs where he seems like he could be.
He's shown signs.
Just showed signs of being a pretty decent
signs.
fighter. Does that make sense? Showed signs.
He's shown signs.
Shown
like
signs.
Frankie signs.
Oh my god,
Jeez, man.
dude! I didn't even think about that.
Rusty ring rust for Wes Riddle.
I guess that's ring rust.
I don't know.
I mean, I will give it to you. He showed signs. There you go. God, I'm an idiot. Just in previous fights, kind of against Yuri Alcantara, that happened a long time ago, but showed some impressive stuff there. Cirie Kakai, he had a good fight. Faber showed some moments. Wanlin didn't look great. Mendez was a pretty fun fight. And they got taken down quite a bit against Merab in his last fight, but I just think he's overall just a little bit more competent of a fighter than Enrique Briones at this fight, or at this point in time. I think Briones is just he has a few too many holes in this game, especially with his defensive takedowns and his just ground abilities. I don't really think he's going to be able to succeed too much down there. I think Saenz is going to be able to take this fight almost wherever it goes. So he's my pick. Unanimous decision, probably 29, 28, 30, 27.
Yep, give me Frankie Saenz here as well to complete the hat trick. I don't have much more to add. I think he has a wrestling advantage. I think he just really has fewer holes in his game. He's not a perfect fighter. He's not a great fighter even, and he might be on the decline ever so slightly. His better days may be behind him, but Henry Briones also hasn't won a fight, as Jed said, since November of 2014. So it's been quite a while. He's on a 3-fight skid. Granted, that does include a loss to Cody Garbrandt. His other losses to Haniaya and Douglas Silva de Andrade, not too bad either. The guy is super tough. He's super scrappy, but I think Saenz will be able to get it done with his wrestling. He got back on track in his last fight against Merab Dvalishvili. Really close one. Could have gone Merab's way. That would have been a 4-fight skid. So both guys haven't had too much success as of late, but I think Saenz will make it 2 in a row. Give me Saenz via decision. Last fight on Fight Pass, we got Enrique Barzola and Brandon Killaby Davis in the featherweight division. Wes, I'll mix up a little bit and go to you first. Do you like Barzola or Davis?
This could be a pretty scrappy fight, and I think if Barzola chooses to keep it on the feet, because sometimes we see him implement some kicks, especially circling around the outside. But when it comes down to it, I don't know how Brandon Davis does sometimes under pressure, and I feel like the only times we see Barzola pressure people are when he's looking for takedowns, and he is very, very successful at getting them. His last 2 opponents, Matt Bessette, he took him down 5 times, and before that, Gabriel Benitez, who's I think fighting on this card later against Humberto Bendene. He landed 9 takedowns on that one. So I think Barzola is going to circle around the outside a lot and then land those takedowns here against Brandon Davis. Maybe Davis could pull something off later in the fight, but Barzola is going to be my pick. I think he takes the first 2 rounds and pulls off the decision victory.
I forgot you don't do a transition there. This is a kind of tough fight. I think Barzola is both really good, but seems very exploitable. And that just kind of always makes me feel some trepidation while picking him. But at the same time, like, he just has a good offense. It maybe isn't stitched together in the best way all the time, but he's really effective. He wrestles super well. I do think that Davis's ability to defend takedowns, which is okay, can make Barzola have to work a little bit harder. Plus, Davis is bigger. He's gonna have some natural size in there. But yeah, give me the leg kicking and the takedown game at Enrique Barzola.
Yeah, I haven't been super impressed with Brandon Davis thus far in his UFC career. Of course, he debuted on short notice, I believe it was, he's had 3 fights. For some reason, I was thinking the Kyle Bochniak fight was his debut. Oh no, I'm just reading the Contender Series fight, right?
He has not had 3, I was about to say.
Yes. So he's 1-1 in the UFC, debuted against Kyle Bochniak. Wasn't a great fight. In his last fight, in a fight of the night, he defeated also debutante Steven Peterson. Davis is super scrappy, but I think Barzola is just technically a bit more sound. His leg kicks are really good. His stand-up overall is getting better. His wrestling is also very good. Davis is mostly a striker. He lands a lot more per minute than Barzola does. Barzola is not the most active fighter, although his activity level isn't necessarily low. I think Davis's is just high for the division. But I think the Peruvian will be able to outpoint Davis on the feet for the most part, and I think he'll also be able to take it down to the ground as well. So I think Barzola has more ways to win here. Therefore, I will pick him to win by unanimous decision. We move to FS2 prelims that kick off at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We go up. We stay in the featherweight division, I should say. We got Wes's boy, Humberto Bandone, taking on the slight favorite here, Gabriel Mowgli Benitez. Wes, I'll go to you first. I assume you're picking Bandone because I know last time he fought, it was his debut. We did the show, the three of us, Jed and I picked his opponent, who I believe was Martin Bravo. Correct me if I'm wrong. And you picked Bandone. You were on the train from the beginning. Do you stay on it against Gabriel Benitez?
I've got to stay on it. I really think this kid has something special. And there was something about before that last fight with Martin Bravo that I'd watched that just was about a style that I feel like is something that we're going to have to keep our eyes on. And the most important thing about that is the fact that he's only 23 years old, and he does have a record with 4 losses, 14 wins and 4 losses. But those 4 losses, they came 2 to 4 years ago, and that was when he was between 21 and 19 years old. And to have a record like that and already be here in the UFC at such a young age, I think he's just like a month or 2 older than me. I think it's really impressive. There's just a lot of things about a style that I think has developed, especially coming from when he was outside the UFC to now. And one of the biggest things is his striking game. And that's actually one thing I was able to predict. I predicted the exact way that he was going to be able to get the knockout because he's very quick, he's very powerful, and he is very efficient at using his left kick and keeping fighters back and also taking advantage. And this is one thing I said the last episode that he fought on, but when fighters are aggressive and come at him, that's when he's in his prime and in his best form because he was able to capitalize on them rushing in. He's able to land kicks to the midsection or to the head or land that knee that he has. And he also has a pretty powerful left hand. I like his stand-up game, and I think that could give Gabriel Benitez some problems, as we saw back in the Andrade Feely fight that happened in 2015. Feely was able to knock out Benitez. I do think Benitez is putting together a pretty well-rounded game, and I think his strategy might need to be to find those takedowns. But then again, it comes into question. If he looks for a takedown, Bandone, I don't know what stance Benitez is, but if he – let's see. I'm trying to find it real quick. I don't see anything on it. I feel if it's going to be the same as Martin Bravo, that could definitely play in the factor of Bandone's favor. I'm going to just say my pick. It's definitely Humberto Bandone. I'm really high on this kid. I think he's got a bright future ahead of him. He's still young, and it might take a loss here to be able to kind of get him in the right place and figure out what his game plan is going to be in the future. But I do think that he can come out victorious in this one. I think he'll be able to get a stoppage. So I'm taking a first-round knockout for Humberto Bandone.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I did no research for this particular fight, and I have written down here. I had Benitez written down here, and then I remembered how excited Wes was last time we did this, and then he was so excited right there. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to pull the trigger on Humberto Bandone. But then one final thing got in the way of that, Wes. I was going to join you. I was going to just say I trust my boy Wes. He knows what's up. But as I looked over Gabriel Benitez's record, I noticed he has a victory over a man named Humberto Brown Morrison, sorry. And if he's already beaten one Humberto, I gotta believe he has the secret sauce to beat all the Humbertos. So it's with great sadness I have to tell you, Wes, I am taking Gabriel Benitez because I think he knows how to beat Humbertos.
Well, that was really inspirational analysis from Jed. I think you should all go follow him on Twitter at JedKMeshew because he provides that 24/7 around the clock. I can't quite live up to expectations placed on Jed, but what I'll say, I think Benitez is a slightly more accurate and technical striker, but Bandone, I mean, his stats on UFC.com are a little blown up just because his last one was a highlight reel knockout. It was his debut, so it's only based off one fight, I believe, and yada, yada, yada. It was, one of the best knockouts all year. But landed per minute right now is 11.54. That's crazy. Whereas Benitez is still pretty active at 4.41, 1-4, that is. Benitez is the veteran of the two. He's fought the better competition, and I think Bannon probably has better one punch or one kick or one knee knockout power, but Benitez looked really good in his last fight against Jason the Kid Knight. I think some of that was just because Jason Knight, fought too soon from his last fight, and he just really looked not the same fighter we saw fight previously. In that one, that was coming off a knockout loss to Ricardo Lamas, for what it's worth, I believe. I'm going to go with Mowgli. I think Gabriel Benitez will get it done, but hey, I picked against Bandone last time, and he completely proved me wrong. Granted, that was when I knew nothing about him. Now I know something, that he can knock guys out with vicious knees, but I'm going to not go on the Bandone hype train quite yet. If he wins, maybe I'll change my stance. But for now, give me Gabriel Benitez by decision.
Then you all will have to join me on my path with the Humberto Benene train. I hope right now. I really hope he does win, and I hope he starches him in like 30 seconds, just so y'all can I can get you on my rope, and I can just
so we
take you with
can
me.
Crow, and you're the smart guy all along, and we have to jump on when he's a champ or.
Look, I said I wanted to believe you, but I can't help it. The man knows how to beat Humbertos. He knows it.
Let's go down to the women's strawweight division. We got Pollyanna Botelho taking on Cirie Kondo. Jed, why don't you go through this fight and tell us who's going to win?
I'm taking Battaglia. Frankly, I haven't seen enough tape on either of them to feel super confident either way, but I remember each of them have a fight in the UFC. I recall them both. I was a little more impressed with Battaglia, and frankly, I think she's like way bigger than Kondo, and that seems like a good enough reason. Give me Pollyanna Battaglia.
I'm taking Botelho in this one as well. I thought the Pro Gonzalez win was pretty impressive. She was coming into with a pretty decent record. I mean, she had one loss in her career, and that's to Viviane Pereira, who's also in the UFC. 2 wins and 1 loss, I think, for her. Also, she has a victory over Karina Rodriguez, which happened kind of earlier in her career, but Rodriguez is a pretty solid fighter overall. Had a pretty close fight with Dan Bennett, I think. And then Cirie Kondo, I mean, she had a fun fight with Chen Mion back in 2017, but I just don't see her getting a victory here. So I think she's got holes in her striking game, and I think Botelho is going to expose those. So I have Botelho by a second round knockout over Cirie Kondo.
Yeah, give me Pollyanna Botelho as well. I think her debut win compared to Kondo's was more impressive. She's the bigger fighter, and she's the betting favorite. People know more about this fight than I do. I'll trust their opinion, their gut. And we have a lot more fights to get to. Probably better fights, to be quite frank about it. So give me Botelho, and let's move on to what Jed has called the best fight of the night, perhaps the most important, maybe not quite than the main event, but it's a real fun flyweight bout here. We got Brandon the Assassin Baby Moreno taking on Alexandre Pantoja. Jed, you like Moreno, who I want to say is the slight favorite here. The odds were very even.
I have Moreno as the underdog.
By how much? It must be pretty
plus
close.
Plus 100. Pantoja's minus 120.
Okay, so
yeah, very close.
That's been flipping back and forth. I would think. Do you like Moreno or Pantoja?
I'm excited because I was going to take Moreno anyway, and now I have an underdog pick on my team. I'm taking Brandon Moreno. Like you said about how I said, this is the only fight I actually care almost at all about on this entire card. I think it's an excellent fight between 2 very good flyweights. Pantoja is basically a set product at this point. He came into the UFC out of the tough house as kind of the fighter he is going to ever be. Brandon Moreno has obviously had a hell of a run and impressed a lot. I think on the feet, Pantoja has a little bit of an advantage in just kind of the skill aspect, but Brandon Moreno is getting so much better every time in, time out that gap can be closed a lot quicker. And Brandon Moreno is a more active grappler and a pretty savvy, tricky grappler in a lot of ways too. I just think, like I said, I think Brandon Moreno is still improving, and I think Pantoja's kind of plateaued off. And I think this is just the exact type of fight for Brandon Moreno to get in there and just be a little bit ahead most of the places the fight goes and edge out a really fun competitive decision. Give me Brandon Moreno.
I like the pick. I'm taking Brandon Moreno as well in this one. I think he's basically everything that Jed has said. He's a pretty solid guy. He's still very young in his mixed martial arts career, and especially his age. He's only 24 years old. This guy hasn't even cracked 25 yet, and he looks super impressive, like a guy that one day will be able to compete against the top 5 and maybe even challenge for the title one day in the next 5 years. So I think Brandon Moreno is a pretty solid guy, and just like Jed said, Pantoja is kind of plateaued at this peak, I think. We saw that, especially in the Dustin Ortiz fight. He got taken down just relentlessly over and over and just wasn't able to use his striking game. I think Moreno's game is his striking is still kind of coming together, but I think it's, at this point, about the same level as Pantoja. And then when it comes to the grappling, Moreno excels, I think, in all areas, especially landing those takedowns. I took Moreno by second-round submission, and I feel like Pantoja could be able to defend some of this not takedowns, but some of the submissions because he is he's had some state champion honors in jiu-jitsu. But I think Moreno might be able to hurt him on the feet. Just kind of landing one of the sloppy shots, kind of like he did against Dustin Ortiz himself. And there you go. He already beat Dustin Ortiz. Pantoja lost to Dustin Ortiz. Do the MMA math. Moreno's going to win. So I'm taking Moreno, second-round submission victory.
Yeah, give me Brandon Moreno here as well. So all three of us are on the very slight underdog, the assassin baby. Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you both said. Both guys are very talented grapplers. I think Pantoja might be a slightly better striker, but if Moreno can get it down to the ground, I think he'll have a bit more success there than Pantoja. Pantoja, his takedowns are not bad, but Moreno's really funky on the ground. His scrambles are pretty good, and he's just really good at locking up chokes. And so I don't know if he will against Pantoja, just because Pantoja, his ground defense isn't anything to it's pretty good. And so I think this one will go to the judges. I know I've been picking a lot of decisions. Maybe that's just because I don't think the card would be all that great. But hey, I think Moreno will win, but I don't think he'll get the finish. So give me the Mexican. Give me Brandon Moreno via unanimous decision. Final prelim fight on FS2. We got Zack Cummings welcoming Michelle Tractor Prazeres to the 170-pound division. Wes, we'll start with you. Do you like the fight?
Pretty sure it's not Tractor. I'm pretty sure it's Trator.
Yeah, I was reading off UFC.com. I've heard Trator as well.
Pretty sure it's Trator.
Nonetheless, Michelle Prazeres, the tree trunk, or is that Usman Paul Harris? I don't even know.
That's Usman Paul Harris.
Who do you like here, Wes?
This is probably the hardest pick for me on this fight card. I'm not 100% sure who I'm going to take. And I think it's because I feel like Zack Cummings has definitely put together something impressive, especially in these past couple fights. He had a couple moments in the Ponzinibbio fight, but the last two, he's looked terrific. Michelle has been on this incredible streak. His last loss was to Kevin Lee back in 2015, and right now he's won 2, 4, 6 in a row. Two of those names being Gilbert Burns and Desmond Green, two very talented fighters. But I think it's going to come down to the weight. I feel like if Prazeres is able to make weight, I might be more tempted to pick Zack Cummings because this weight cut has always been a serious issue for Michelle. He's missed weight in 3 of the last 4 fights. He'd missed it against Gilbert Burns, Desmond Green, and Mats Burrell, all by somewhere between 3 and 6 pounds. If he doesn't make weight, if let's say he's around that 160 mark again, it makes me kind of think, did he actually try completely to make that weight cut? And how did he walk out of the scale? Did he have a towel wrapped around him? I'm curious to see when it comes down to that. If that's the case, let's say he goes out there on the scale, just stands there and weighs in 5 pounds or 6 pounds over, I think I'm going to be more tempted to pick him because I feel like he's not going to try to cut that weight. Therefore, he has more energy. He's going to have better cardio there going in the fight. Also, he's going to have the hometown crowd. But if he looks just absolutely drained and comes right there within a pound of making weight, I'm going to take Zack Cummings. So Cummings is my pick for the moment. Very well could change, but I think the weigh-ins are going to play a big factor kind of in how this fight is going to play out.
Wait, who did you end up taking, Wes? Sorry.
I'm taking Cummings,
Okay.
but I think I'm going to make up my mind just in the morning when the weigh-ins finish.
Okay. I'm taking Prazeres for the exact opposite reasons of Wes. I feel confident Prazeres is going to miss weight. Fighters who have missed weight this year have gone 6-0 at this point. Cummings' biggest advantage in this fight really is that he is like super big for the division, and while Prazeres is enormous, like as a brick shit house, he's teeny tiny. He's like 5'5" or some shit like that. Otherwise, I think that Prazeres can be competitive on the feet and can win the grappling and the wrestling and just kind of bulldoze through Cummings in a lot of spaces. Basically, I don't know why. I know Zach Cummings has okay wins and like isn't a bad fighter, but he's just one of those fighters that every time I watch him fight, I just think that he's not good. And I think Michel Prazeres is okay fighter who would be a better fighter if he could get his fucking weight under control. But yeah, so give me Prazeres because I think he's gonna miss weight and have that extra advantage going into a fairly even fight.
And so, just to clarify, you think Prazeres will miss weight at 170?
Correct.
Okay, I asked
really good at missing weight.
So, yeah, I mean,
look at Johnny.
John Lineker because he obviously
look at Johnny Hendricks. Look at Anthony Rumble Johnson. Like you get guys who are consistent weight missers. And like the thing is, when you're a person who consistently misses weight, it's not because you're in the wrong division. It's because
you're not trying.
You don't give a fuck. Like
exactly.
That's just,
Mackenzie Dern.
Exactly. Like you are not a professional in that regard. And I'm not gonna cast aspersions because frankly I don't give a shit. You do you, whatever makes you happy. But the reality of the matter is like Johnny Hendricks shouldn't be blowing weight for middleweight fights. That's just him not giving a fuck. And if Michel Prazeres missed weight by like 6 pounds, that's multiple times. Like that's just him not giving a fuck. So I bet he misses weight.
Oh, I think you're right for sure.
Straight up.
Very interesting. I'm going to agree with Wes here, at least for now, because I know he's sort of on the fence still. I'm going to go with Zach Cummings to defeat Michel Prazeres. Cummings is way bigger than Michel Prazeres. Prazeres is just a massive lightweight. He's not. I mean, he's definitely a small welterweight. He said he has said that he intends to drop back down to 155. He definitely needs to get his weight cut in order. He is a big lightweight, but if he I don't know, hires a nutritionist or just doesn't eat as much or whatever. I don't know. I'm not an expert, but I think lightweight is his division. Even though I don't like weight cutting, I just feel like against most welterweights he'd be pretty undersized, like he is here against Zach Cummings. I like Cummings here. I think he's a better striker. I think the grappling's pretty close. Cummings might be a tad better. Prazeres is really good on top, but his strength comes into play in a lot of his fights, and I just don't know he'll have that here. I mean, he could get on top of Cummings and hold him down if he really tries, but I'm not confident in that. I can't bank on that. I think Cummings just has more ways to win here. I think he'll probably outpoint Prazeres on the feet, and so give me Zach Cummings with another decision. With that, let's move along to the FS1 main card. 6 fights kicking off at the wonderful time of 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. We kick things off with one of the better fights of the night, in my opinion. Anyways, Vicente, the silent assassin, Luque taking on Chad, the disciple Laprise. Notice that I got the disciple right this time. I know either last time Chad Laprise fought or, Jed's shaking his head. He remembers what I'm talking about, I believe. Jed, do you like Vicente Luque or Chad Laprise?
It's actually a really close fight. I'm surprised the odds are as skewed towards Luque as they are. I know he's a younger fighter and maybe has a wee bit more upside, but I don't know, man. I guess you got to take Luque. Just the loss to Pearson from Laprise is still like that's one of those things that can be hard for me to ever get over, just because Pearson's not good. But I don't know. Like Luque has beaten better people. And so that makes me want to pick Luque, but at the same time, I think I can see Chad Laprise just like being super fucking tough and hanging in there, throwing hands, getting the better of exchanges through volume and stuff, and being in equal par to Luque's grappling. So I think this fight's razor close. And so I'm gonna side with Luque, but I'm not super confident in it.
I'm kind of like Jed on this one. I'm not 100% sure what's going to happen. I'm pretty set, I think, on taking Vicente Luque, and that's for the fact that Chad Laprise is the kind of fighter who likes to exchange punches quite a bit on the feet. He doesn't really take any guys down. A lot of his game is predominantly on the feet. He just likes to throw a decent volume. And Vicente Luque is a guy that does it really good in return, but also very well in the pocket. I think Vicente Luque might be able to crack Chad Laprise, kind of similar to what Francisco Trinaldo did back in 2015. And that's just the fact that Luque is just such a heavy hitter. And I feel like that could give Chad Laprise problems. We saw Luque finish like Bilal Muhammad here in the UFC. Hector Urbina was another knockout. And then he knocked out Thiago Santos back before he was even in the promotion. So I'm going to take Luque, and I've got him by second round TKO, but that's in a fight that I feel like could have a lot of ebbs and flows. I think Chad Laprise could have some moments on the feet. Luque could have some moments. I don't know if Luque is going to want to take this one down. I know he has a freaking nasty darts choke, but I feel like they're just going to swing it out on the feet, and this could be a fight of the night contender. But I think that it could still be a fight of the night even if it only goes 2 rounds. So Vicente Luque is my pick. Second round TKO, possible fight of the night. I have to think about it, but it should be a pretty fun one.
Yeah, I mean, I've been quite high on Vicente Luque for quite a while. I know his loss to Leon Edwards scared me a little bit, and then I ended up picking Nico Price against him, which definitely did not work out. He tapped Nico Price out last October in the second round. But ever since KOing Bilal Muhammad, and I know that, I mean, I say I've been high on Vicente Luque, and really it's only been his last few fights, so I don't know how fair that is, but he's been doing very well in his UFC career. In the grand scheme of things. On the other hand, Chad Laprise, I think, is probably the best fighter he's been right now ever. I think he's at the best point in his career. I think welterweight, the move up has done pretty good things for him. He's 3 straight KOs. This is a guy who he's always had power, but for a lot of his career, he was going to the 2 decisions. His first 3 UFC fights were all decision victories. And then, of course, he was knocked out by Trinaldo and then lost a split decision to Ross Pearson, as Jed mentioned. So the guy, I think the move up to welterweight has just increased his power. But Vicente Luque, this guy is an animal on the feet and on the ground. He's bigger as well. This is something I've noticed. We have a lot of mismatches as far as the height and reach, and how much that means we don't really know always, but here, I mean, I gotta include it. I think it's worth mentioning Luque having a 4-inch reach advantage, and then the height being a little more even, just 1 inch, I should say, for Vicente Luque. Yeah, it says Vicente Luque is from the States. That's not accurate, is it?
I have a fucking clue, man.
Yeah, he fights out of Brazil, but nonetheless, I like Vicente Luque here. I like him to stop Chad Laprise. Laprise has been stopped before, so it's not like he never has, and it seems impossible to knock him out. Give me Luque via knockout in round number 2 in a fun fight. We move to the women's flyweight division. We got Veronica Macedo taking on the newcomer, Andrea Lee, KGB, who, of course, was the LFA champion. Is that accurate? I believe she did win the LFA title, right?
I think you're right.
Yes. So, Jed, I'll go to you first. You like Andrea Lee to win her UFC debut. She was supposed to make it a few months ago, had a few issues with USADA. Would you like the Venezuelan here, Veronica Macedo?
Yeah, Andrea Lee's dope. She's going to win. If you know anything about MMA beyond being a hardcore, if you're, more than just a casual UFC fan, probably know who Andrea Lee is, got some hype behind her. She's super dope. It's going to be really fun. She's going to beat the hell out of this woman.
I am in the exact same boat. I am very, very high on Andrea Lee and not as high as Veronica Macedo. I think a lot of people are picking Veronica to win this one, and I'm not 100% sure why. I mean, she had a pretty decent career before she entered the UFC, but then just got pieced up pretty bad by Ashley Smith. I think that Andrea Lee is just as scrappy, and I think that she can win this fight on the feet for sure. And I think maybe she could have some moments on the ground because she has some pretty good submissions. So I'm definitely taking Andrea Lee here. I've got it picked by exactly what Ashley Evans Smith did to Veronica Macedo the first fight, and that is a third round TKO.
Yeah, Andrew Lee is one of the bigger favorites on the card for good reason. Macedo lost her debut to Ashley Evans Smith. Not a terrible loss, but it's a loss where if you're going to make some waves in the division, you probably should be beating Evans Smith at this point in MMA and life. I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, Andrew Lee is going to do pick up a big win here. I think. I don't know where Macedo could beat her. Lee is good on the feet, good on the ground. Her specialty is probably on the ground, but her striking's getting better. Yeah, I like KGB a lot here. Give me Andrea Lee. Let's go with submission in round number 2. Next up, we go to the bantamweight division. We got Diego Pitbull Rivas taking on Guido Canetti. Wes, we'll go to you. Do you like Rivas or Canetti?
Man, I'm not 100% sure on this one, and I really don't care a whole lot. I mean, both these guys are pretty cool. They have cool personalities. I like kind of their backstory, how they got here, but it's just the fact that they haven't fought in such a long time. I mean, I know they've had 2 fights recently. Canetti lost to Kang, and I think Kang hadn't fought for like years. And then Rivas fought somebody, Jose Quinones, or I don't remember. And then before that, I don't think he fought since like 2016. And then that's when he got that flying knee knockout over Noah. I don't know if y'all know. I'm pretty sure it was Noah because he lost 2 by flying knee.
Yes, Rivas did beat Lahat by KO. Yeah.
So I just think there's a lot of unknown factors here because they're both coming off losses. Their last wins were numerous years ago, and we haven't really seen a whole lot of their game plan to see how they're going to play this one out, kind of what they're going to be looking for. My pick, though, is going to be Diego Rivas, and that's just because I think that his takedowns could possibly be able to win him this fight. Canetti has pretty solid takedown defense, but it seems like he just really struggles with avoiding submissions, and I feel like if Rivas has worked on kind of his activity there on the ground, he could try to look for submissions pretty frequently if he can get this one down. I really don't know how this one's going to play out, to be honest. I could be completely wrong, and Canetti could be the one landing these takedowns, but I'm going to stick with Rivas by a unanimous decision. Like I said, there's just a lot of unknowns, I think.
I don't have a clue. I'm taking Rivas because he's the favorite, just straight up.
Yeah, give me Diego Rivas. I think he hits harder. Guido Canetti hasn't won a fight since August 2015. That was against Hugo Viana, who is long gone from the UFC promotion. I think Rivas isn't he's not too active, and I think that's his biggest where he sort of falls short a little bit. In his last fight, he simply just got outpointed by his opponent. He has 1-punch KO power, one knee KO power. Obviously, the guy hits pretty hard, but yeah, I think he needs to put his combinations together a bit better. But I just don't know. I guess Canetti might be able to grapple him a little bit. He probably has the slight advantage on the ground, but I don't know. I it's kind of a whatever fight. It'll probably be a stand-up affair, and I think Rivas probably wins that one. So give me Rivas. I'll say by decision. If it's either going to be a flash KO or a decision, that's my opinion. Moving on, we go way up to the men's light heavyweight division. Of course, not the female division. Gabby Garcia is not in the UFC. We got Jared Cannonier taking on Dominick the Devastator Reyes. I think his nickname used to be something else, and I think it used to be a lot better than the Devastator. Wasn't it the Dominator? And then he changed it because of Dominick Cruz. I don't know. I think it was that. Wes, we'll go to you first again. Do you like the Killer Gorilla or the Devastator?
This one could be a pretty exciting fight. Both guys hit and throw with just a ton of leather. We have seen that Cannonier's weakest part of his game is definitely his defensive wrestling. Struggled with it against Jan Blachowicz. Very much struggled with it against Glover Teixeira. Couldn't stand up. And then Ion Cutelaba just took him down numerous times. Cannonier was able to get the victory there, but he just kept getting taken down over and over. Dominick Reyes, we don't really know an extreme amount of his game, especially in the later rounds, because he finishes everybody very early on in his fights. He's now won 2 in a row here in the UFC. I think he's still undefeated as a professional mixed martial artist, and he's got numerous stoppages in the first round. Jeremy Kimball was his last win, was able to submit him and land just a lot of volume. Oh, yeah. Oh, wait, did you say what I think he did?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, Kimball's terrible. Jared Cannonier is a pretty solid fighter, but I think that Dominick Reyes might be able to clip him, and that's the fact that I trust his chin a little bit more than Cannonier's chin, especially seeing some of the damage that Cannonier's taken in recent fights, and I think Reyes might be able to get this one down too. So Reyes is going to be my pick. I've got him by first round TKO. Submission maybe could be possible, but I think we're going to see something maybe similar to what Sean Jordan did. Reyes gets a finish on the feet, or he takes him down, lands some ground and pound, and gets a finish.
Well, boys, it's a good day to be y'all because I am going to be magnanimous. I'm going to be generous. I'm going to give you guys a gift. I frequently make fun of you for your terrible picks. When you make really bad picks, like which ones jump out to mind?
Well, you're going to say Eric Spicely.
I was trying not to go with that one.
There's been another one that really stands out.
It was when you, Nikolai, picked the dude who's a 4-time All-American wrestler who's
Gregor Gillespie.
Yeah, when you picked against you,
no.
you picked Andrew Holbrook's non-wrestling
Andrew
ass,
Holbrook.
and then Gregor Gillespie stretchered him in 7 seconds. So every once in a while you guys make really bad picks, and they're just so on their face terrible that I have to bring it up. So I'm going to throw you an olive branch here. You may not recall this, but I certainly do. There was a time when I thought Jared Cannonier was the next thing, and I picked him to beat Glover Teixeira.
You did.
I was real wrong. And since that moment, I realized how wrong I was, and now I've decided that he's terrible. And so even if maybe he's not terrible, I'm never going to pick him again because that's my penance for a really bad decision I made previously in life.
You can't call Cannonier terrible because he beat Ian Cutelaba, who is basically a UFC legend at this point.
I can, in fact, call him terrible. I'm doing it right now. Dominick, the worst part of Dominick Reyes' game is the fact that his nickname should just be Dominant Dominick Reyes. I don't know why. It's super frustrating. Nobody knows how to make fight nicknames, but Dominick Reyes seems really cool, and he can also wrestle his ass off, and Jared Cannonier is really not good at that. So that's probably what's going to happen. He's just going to get taken down over and over again. So give me Dominick Reyes, and then you can take away Nick.
It's just funny that you did mention the Cannonier Glover fight, just because I remember when the UFC came to Winnipeg last December, Glover and Cannonier. I was in the same room with them, and they were talking, and I don't know, it was pretty funny. But I remember
it's a really good story.
Yeah, I know. Should I keep on continuing with it, or should I just
If you guys haven't noticed from my very succinct breakdowns, I'm trying for us to not have a 2-hour fight card on one of the worst cards of the year.
Okay, I'll save my wonderful hotel lobby story for another show. Maybe for the MMA circus, because weather, that plus boring stories, just perfect. Give me Dominick Reyes here. I was going to say he's a bigger fighter. He's a lot taller, but the reach is dead even at 77 inches. On the feet, Cannonier could do some good work, but Reyes is also a really long fighter. Cannonier, although his reach is really long, he's just he still gets inside, and that's sort of how he fights. I think Reyes is going to be able to pop him with the jabs from the outside. His kicks are really good as well. Some people might remember his highlight reel knockout at LFA last year. That was the fight that got him into the UFC. He's since gone 2-0 with quick finishes in both fights. I think Reyes is a really good fighter. We keep seeing these undefeated light heavyweights come up, and I keep calling them the next big thing, the next prospect. I'm sure I did it with Jared Cannonier, as you said, West or Jed, that you did. Just that, but Reyes definitely has something here. Will he lose a fight? Yeah, probably. But I don't think it'll happen on this card. I think he does get the job done here against Jared Cannonier. He's a better grappler and might just be the better, more technical striker. Cannonier probably hits harder, but I think Reyes will outpoint him, and also I'm not going to say dominate, but I think he'll control Cannonier on the ground as well for a unanimous decision victory. Co-main event time. Initially, it was supposed to be Volkan Ozdemir taking on Shogun Hua. That is no more. We instead have Alexa Grasso taking on Tatiana Suarez. This is a strawweight fight that shouldn't be a co-main event of any card in the UFC, but I actually kind of like it. I think it's a good fight. I think it's a lot closer than the odds indicate. Right now, Suarez
Those are insane.
Yeah, Suarez has ballooned up to a minus 900 favorite, which is absolutely insane. I don't understand it. Grasso's a good fighter. Suarez probably will win. I'll just say my pick right now. I'm picking Suarez, but by no means should she be a 9-1 favorite against a fighter that's good and is 10-1. But hey, let's nonetheless. Jed, you like Grasso or Suarez?
I'm going to take Suarez, but you basically took everything I wanted to say. The odds are insane. I think Suarez is just a little bit more active in every stage of the game, and I favor her to get the win here. More athletic, too. A lot of little advantages, but those little advantages should not add up to minus 900. That is a really, really wide line. But, yeah, give me Suarez. So two of us are on Suarez. Wesley Riddle, is it unanimous?
Oh, it's without a doubt unanimous. And I mean, the odds are way off, I think, because I'm pretty sure that'll put, if Grasso wins, as one of the biggest upsets in like UFC history. And I don't really
be up there.
I don't see that up there really with this fight. I mean, I'm pretty confident in Suarez getting the victory. I think all of us are. Especially, I think a wrestling game is going to give Grasso problems similar to what Reyes Marcos did back in that fight. Also, Suarez is very successful with landing her punches. And I think, Jed, you might have mentioned it, or Nick, one of you did, but she's a very, very athletic person and just had some incredible experience. Grasso's still young. I'm surprised that they paired her up here against Tatiana Suarez. But, again, the odds are way off. I do think Suarez will get a victory here. I've got her by decision pretty decisively, but a submission victory could be very well possible.
Yeah, I just want to quickly say, although I picked Suarez already, I think she's just a way better grappler, and that's sort of how the fight will go. I concur with pretty much everything you guys said. Grasso's a good fighter. She's a good striker, but she definitely needs some work, some seasoning. Not to say Suarez doesn't, but at this point in both of their respective careers, I think Suarez is definitely better. Jed I don't know what happened, but that's okay. With that, I'm going Suarez, and we all are on Suarez. So with that, let's move on to the main event, and hopefully by then Jed will return to the program. We got Damian Maia taking on Kamaru, the Nigerian Nightmare Usman, at 170 pounds, and here comes Jed. He's back just in time to break down this main event. Short notice, Damian Maia, does he get back on track, or does Kamaru Usman, the almost undefeated in the UFC, Kamaru Usman, does he keep the train rolling en route to a big fight next?
Kamaru Usman keeps the train rolling. Colby Covington's actually not a very good fighter, and he beat up Damian Maia strictly because he could prevent Maia from taking him down. And even though Maia probably should have won a round on the feet, Colby Covington is not a very good striker. In fact, he's a really bad one. Kamaru Usman is not a great striker, but he does have a lot of natural power, and he's improving. This is a pretty easy formula to play out. Usman defends the takedowns. Usman's been training full-time for this event. Do we know if this is 5 rounds or 3?
Oh, it's 5 as far as I know.
Yep.
Is it definitely? I mean, because I know the short notice. I could, if I was Maia's camp, I would have asked for 3. Anyway, yeah, he's coming in short. Like, Maia's never had wonderful cardio anyway. She's coming in short notice. Like, this is just a whole shit pile of bad for him. Yeah, I think Kamaru Usman's a really good welterweight too. So on top of that, yeah, give me Kamaru Usman probably with a KO first section of the fight.
Just because I was okay.
Oh yeah,
I was gonna say, yeah, if you wanted to go ahead.
No, I totally forgot. Yeah.
No, it's all good. Just to bring it up, because I was really curious. A negative 500 odd there for
Usman.
Or no, the last fight, Tatiana Suarez, places her with Frankie Edgar upsetting BJ Penn at UFC 112. And also, right there between that and Renan Barão losing to TJ Dillashaw. So that is pretty ridiculous. Moving on to this fight, Kamaru Usman's going to win. Jed talked about everything that I think was important. There's not a whole lot to add. Usman, again, is in this full training camp. This being a 5-round fight. Demian Maia has, in certain fights, struggled quite a lot, especially in those championship rounds. Just does not look 100% there. I think Usman could win this fight on the feet. I think that Maia might be the one occasionally shooting for takedowns, which is definitely not going to get them on Usman. And I think Usman will be able to land takedowns of his own if he were to force the issue. For those reasons, I'm actually taking Usman to TKO Demian Maia in the 4th round. I think he'll be the second guy, if he can, to defeat Maia by strikes since Marquardt. And Nate Marquardt knocked him out in like 21, 25 seconds. I think just Usman's he's one of the most athletic guys in the division. Really skilled, really talented. I think he's got a pretty coming together game, or well-rounded game that is coming together. And for all those reasons combined, my short notice, I think Usman's going to take this one, unless he makes some really careless error. But Usman's my pick, 4th round TKO over Demian Maia here in the main event.
Yeah, I think the line, Kamaru Usman, on 5 dimes anyways right now, he's minus 750. Again, that's a little wide, but I can't really take advantage of it just because I am picking Kamaru Usman at the end of the day. I think the odds makers out there, the betting public has the right victor. I just think they have it too much a little bit, but hey, I guess it's not the end of the world. I do like Kamaru Usman to win this fight, though. I think this will look kind of like the Colby Covington fight in the idea that Demian Maia is a grappler and will be forced to stand here just because Kamaru Usman is probably maybe a better wrestler than Colby Covington. Probably, it's definitely more athletic.
He's definitely a better wrestler.
I'm just trying to think. Literally in a wrestling match, who wins, Covington or Usman? Probably Usman.
Covington probably wins. I think he's a more credentialed wrestler, but as far as MMA wrestling goes, it's pretty obvious who's the better wrestler.
Yeah. As far as MMA wrestling, mixing in the strikes as well, the ground and pound, Usman is far better. But I do think it'll just be a standard affair for the most part. I don't see any reason for Usman to take Maia down just because that's just not. I mean, that's giving Maia a better chance. It's pretty clear. And so he doesn't want to do that. He seems to be a pretty smart fighter. His fight IQ is pretty good. And so I think he'll know that, hey, his striking is getting better. And we've seen that in past performances. I know his last one wasn't fantastic, especially to see his other what else he has to offer in the cage. But we've seen against Worley Alves, I remember his striking looked a lot better. And so I think we'll see that a lot in this fight. I'm not super confident Usman stops Maia, but over 25 minutes with Maia stepping up on short notice, he's gassed before. He could again. And so I will go Usman via, I'll say either a 4th or 5th round TKO. I think he'll probably rock him on the feet and then jump on Maia and finish him off with a bit of ground and pound. So Usman's not a super big one-punch KO guy, but I think the volume will definitely add up. And I think he'll be able to stop the Brazilian veteran, Demian Maia, and pick up the biggest win of his career. So we have reached the end. UFC Fight Night 129. That is it. 13 fights going down in Santiago, Chile. That is it. Let's move on before we say goodbye to our amazing listeners. Let us go to our performances of the night predictions, our underdog pick of the week. And then, of course, we'll follow that with DraftKings. Wes, I'll let you go first. Who do you got for your 4 performances? Performance of the night, and fight of the night. And who is your underdog pick of the week?
All right. My fight of the night is not going to Usman Maia. I'm going to go with Vicente Luque versus Chad Laprise. I think that's going to be a pretty fun fight, especially if it gets past the first. My 2 performances, I'll give one to Dominick Reyes. I think he'll be able to stop Jared Cannonier. And I got to go with my boy, Humberto Benitez. I think he'll be able to get a finish, hopefully. Maybe I'm just overconfident. I don't know. But I have to give him a bonus.
And your underdog pick? Do we need that?
My underdog pick, I guess Humberto Benitez. I think he's still a little bit of an underdog. He could be wrong.
Yeah,
he is.
Okay.
All right, Wes or Nick, what about you?
Fight of the night is a bit tricky. I'm probably leaning towards Luque Laprise, to be honest. I think that can be quite the barn burner. I hate to copy West, but I've said it before. I hate to be a Debbie Downer, but this card just really doesn't have much popping out on, for my eyes. I think Barzola Davis could be it. Lee might make it sort of entertaining. Even Cannonier Reyes has some potential, but I'll go with Laprise Luque. Sorry, Wes. For my performances, I'm going to give one to Felipe Silva, the rare first fight of the night, getting a performance bonus. My other one is either going to go to Luque or Andrea Lee. I can't see them giving 100K to Luque, and I'm not super confident he stops Chad Laprise, so therefore I'm going to go with Andrea KGB's Lee. So that is Andrea Lee, Vicente Luque, Andrea Lee, Felipe Silva, and then Luque and Laprise. My underdog has to be Brandon Moreno. He is the only underdog I am picking as far as I know.
Correct. I'm taking the obvious fight of the night, Moreno Pantoja.
Oh, that's a good one.
Give me that one. Thank you both for not jumping on my corner there. That's cool. My performance is going to be Kamaru Usman. Not really sure how either of you guys think he's not going to get one, but that's fine as well. And I'm also going to take Tatiana Suarez because give me the biggest favorites on the card. I'll take the easy money where it comes. My underdog pick, I am also taking Brandon Moreno. I'm more confident in him than Michel Prazeas. It's basically the scratch there. I will move on to my DraftKings team so we can get on out of here because it's already been too much time on this bullshit. As you might guess, I have Kamaru Usman on my DraftKings team. He's a performance of the night bonus. The unfortunate thing is when my other performance of the night bonus goes to Tatiana Suarez, that's two extremely expensive fighters, and basically I can't really make that money work. So I could not add her as well. Instead, I added Dominick Reyes is the other big favorite on my team. And then I have Diego Rivas, Michel Prazeres, Brandon Moreno, both of the underdogs I picked. And since I still needed another underdog to even make any of this work, taking Henry Briones. Like I said when we went over that fight, Frankie Saenz is really old. At some point, he's going to start falling off. And Henry Briones has the bones of what should be a pretty good fight game. He just hasn't gotten it rolling. So maybe against an old man, he can get something moving. Just kind of a shot in the dark there to make the money work. That's my squad. What about you boys?
Wes, I'll let you go first.
All right, so we've got four of the same, and I think the two expected are Tatiana Suarez.
I don't have Suarez on my team.
Oh, you don't? You said you don't. Yeah, you have Dominick Reyes, right?
Yep.
Okay. I have Kamaru Usman and Tatiana Suarez. I went for both of them because I think they'll be able to land decent volume on the feet and also takedowns. I think those are definitely going to be able to rack up some points. Then I had to kind of go lower. I took Michel Prazeres as well. I think that's one we have similar, so we have three the same. And then the other that's the same is Brandon Moreno.
Mm-hmm.
I have him as well. And then I had to go two cheaper guys. So I took Guido Canetti. I did not pick him in my fantasy picks or our picks here on the show, but maybe he could pull off an upset. And then I had to go Humberto Benitez because he was pretty cheap overall in DraftKings. I think that he's a pretty solid guy to take, especially if you're going for some of the higher guys on the cards, such as Usman and Suarez. That's my team.
I like it.
I don't love my team all that much, but considering I picked three fighters to stop fights, I guess going by my predictions, there's really not a great team. Nonetheless, I am going to go with Brandon Moreno. I'm going to go with Vicente Luque. My fight of the night winner, I'm going to go with Andrea Lee. My performance of the night winner, one of them anyways, I will go with a big favorite on the card, Enrique Barzola. And then I needed two sizable underdogs to round out my team. Brandon Moreno, I guess, is an underdog, but he's still over the at the 8,000 mark for DraftKings. I will also go with Humberto Banane. I'm picking Benitez, but say la vie. And then finally, I round out my team with Jared Cannonier. I don't think he'll get the win. I think he'll lose in somewhat decisive fashion, but he has power. Maybe he just clips him and makes my team great. But I needed a cheap guy. He's 7,200, so I threw him on there. I have 200 remaining. I know last week I had a lot of money remaining. So the deal with DraftKings, you don't always have to use every penny, but I might change it up. But that's what I got for now. So That is the show, episode 108 of Before the Battle, UFC Santiago Chile edition is in the books. Thank you all very much for listening and watching. And thanks to everybody who's been over in the chat on YouTube. It's been a lot more active than it usually is, so we appreciate that. If you enjoyed this show, give us a big thumbs up down there. And if you don't mind, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel down there. If you have any feedback for the show after it is recorded, after the YouTube chat is no more, drop a comment in the comment section down below, and I will respond to you if needed. Thank you all for watching again. Jed, remind people where they can find you on social media and where they can find everything else you do.
Follow me on Twitter at JedKMeshew. All my writing, everything else I do comes through MMAfighting.com.
Cool. You can follow me on Twitter at AllThatMMA. You can find my writing over at MMAsucka.com. And then, of course, you can find the show here on YouTube. Besides that, that's all from me. Always having fun on the show.
All right, there you go. You guys can find me on the Twitter at Nick Baldwin MMA. You can find all of my writing over at bloodyelbow.com. You can find all of my interviews here on this YouTube channel, The MMA Circus, and of course, some find their way over to Bloody Elbow as well. I won't be doing any coverage for UFC Chile this weekend, but I just my regular stuff as always. I interviewed Scott Cooley yesterday. He is the representative, the PR guy, if you will, for BetDSI, which is for any gamblers out there. It's an offshore sports book where you can bet on fights or any other sport. I talked to him about the news of the Supreme Court of the U.S. passing or overturning the federal ban on sports gambling. So very cool insight from him, and obviously an interesting angle just because whether or not offshore bookies will take a hit. So that'll be up very soon. I also talked to Gegard Mousasi ahead of his Bellator 200 middleweight title fight against champion Rafael Carvalho. That'll be up during fight week next week. That is pretty much all I got going on as far as interviews, and I think that's pretty much it. So once again, Nick Baldwin MMA on Twitter, Jed K. Meshew on Twitter, All That MMA on Twitter. Thank you all for watching, and enjoy the fights on Saturday night.
Love you guys.